Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pula. My guest today is Elena Oelke, and Elena is in Michigan, and we're going to talk about the presidential election. So, Elena, what do you think about it so far?
Hello, Cynthia, and your viewers. Thank you for inviting me again. I think the presidential race is pretty much, you mean the Republican side or the entire thing? Which one? I
Yeah,
can.
let me hear your overview of the entire race.
The entire race, I don't see anybody running. I mean, literally, Biden is barely walking. Trump just kind of like, walks in and there is nobody there to compete with. With that said, we do know that the Republican side is still being contested with Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley has pretty much upset Trump on several occasions. So now they're at this a push and pull and punch and run type of debacle. They're barring each other's donors and all this other stuff. But in general, quick overview, it's exciting. It would be great to see if Trump can make it happen this time around.
So it's Sunday morning at 11:30, and I watched Meet the Press this morning, and Nikki Haley was on. She's pretty feisty. She's still standing when all of the men just dropped out of the race.
You have to give it to her. I did watch several interviews with her, and I did watch her speech at her rally. She did actually mention she derived some inspiration from Hillary Clinton when she heard Hillary speak one time at, I guess, university. Nikki said that. Hillary said, everybody will tell you not to run because you're a woman or because you're this, you're that, but this is exactly why you should run. And Nikki Haley, in one of her interviews, actually complimented Hillary for being inspiration in that sense. You have to say that when I ran in my primary race in 2020 for United States Congress, at that time it was Michigan District 6 here in the area where I live, there were a lot of men who were talking about running, and guess who was on the ballot? Me, the only woman. So you
Uh,
have you have to give it to women. We do know how to multitask. And for most part, when we say we will do something, we put our mind, heart, and effort and time in it, we stick with it. So kudos to her for sticking it up. On the other hand, I do know that a lot of people are encouraging her to drop out. I think Vivek Ramaswamy,
Ramaswamy.
he has encouraged her to drop out. But if you think about it, I mean, um, she is doing her best because she is a career politician. She was elected to the state legislature in South Carolina at the time. Then she was governor of that state twice.
Right.
Then she UN ambassador when she resigned from being a governor and joined Trump's administration as UN ambassador at the time. So she has been in politics for a long time, but we don't have to forget that she also has been courted by a lot of corporate interests. She was on the board of Boeing Corporation, and my understanding that average salary, I'm thinking based in 2017, I read it someplace, for the board member of Boeing was about 317,000 plus minus. And so she was, she was dipping her toes with a lot of corporate interests. And that's why I think Ron DeSantis, when he suspended his campaign, he said that he supports and endorsed Donald Trump because he believes Nikki Haley is the yesteryear Republican who is basically in in connection with the corporate interest, something along those lines. I don't want to go as far as saying that he may have called her corrupt. Don't quote me on that, but I think there may have been exact word. Gosh, I watch so many interviews. Sometimes you have to double check me on that one. But yes, he did support Donald Trump after he dropped out and encouraged Nikki to step aside.
So you're not originally from this country. What what's your what sparked your interest in politics, and what sparked your interest for running for office?
You know, Cynthia, I have been a businesswoman in this country when I came to the United States in 1998. Pretty successful, I've done well. And I thought that since we're business people, we're doing our job, the politicians are doing their job. And as when at some point in my life, when I believe what is it, Obama's presidency, I started to see that things were drastically changing in the United States. And I've seen that the United States was basically descending in the free fall. And I started to pay more attention to the votes and what politicians do. And I thought, oh my gosh, they are not doing their job. We think they do. We come to the polls, we vote for them. But no, this country is moving down the hill in a free fall. And then I thought, wow, something needs to change. And who is going to change it? If politicians are focused on their careers, on their donors, on how to please their corporate interests, some people like me, like you, Cynthia, the people who are supposed to contribute to our self-governing process in the United States, you don't have to be a career politician to run for office. This
Right.
is not why America was founded. America was founded that everyone has an opportunity to participate in the process of self-governing. And that's why when one of my platform keynotes was the term limits for US Congress. Yes, we need term limits. We do not need incumbents there for 35, 40 years. They have no business being there. There is other people who can contribute as intelligent, if not better and more intelligent, as capable. Women or men does not matter. Whatever your gender you identify with, whatever rocks your boat, if you are capable and willing American citizen to contribute to our country's greatness and success and uphold the Constitution, and you're willing to sacrifice your time, your life, your skills, everything that you've gained so far to bring it forth to benefit the public in America, you can do it. And that's inspired me to step up because I saw that politicians are basically wasting our time and our taxpayer dollars and not doing anything to solve any problems in real time. So that's why I stepped up.
Now, when you say term limits, how many years in Congress do you think a person should serve?
You know, there is a variety of opinions on that. In Michigan here, we do have for state legislature, we had the term limits, and I think they recently changed it. There was, I believe, 2 terms for Senate. I believe each one was 6 years, and then 3 terms for the House of Representatives, 2 years each. So it was 6, either 4, twice it would be 6 and 8.
Okay.
I don't think that this is in Michigan or in the state legislature. I don't think that needs to be that long, to be honest with you. In United States Congress, I don't think that needs to be that long. Um, I think that's one of the problems that we have people there for 35, 40 years. That breeds corruption. That breeds connections, that breeds the favoritism, corporatism, nepotism. And that's one of the biggest problems in the United States, because if those people are there for forever, what was American Revolution is all about? If we had a king and king had his favorites who were basically a birthright, people entitled, and they felt entitled. Well, we're breeding the same cast of the people who feel entitled to sit in a public service for 30, 40, 50 years as if no one else can step up and fill their shoes. Give me a break. We can, we will, and we shall.
So, when you talk about a politician serving a long period of time, both major parties are both major parties have candidates that are older. Like Trump is nearly 80 and Biden's 80. And you could see that Biden is not what he used to be. I think that's pretty frightening.
You know, Cynthia, to touch on the presidential race again, let's look at this. Nikki Haley right now, she was born in 1972, I believe. And she, in her way, shape, or form, she likes to, bring the fact that Trump, she actually, it's a quote. She quotes and says that Trump is a chaos. Wherever Trump is, chaos follows him. And something about him being in senior age. And of course, there was a bit of a debacle when in a recent rally, he kind of mixed up Pelosi and Nikki Haley. Was one of those interesting moments. But then, hey, the guy is just kind of like, really, I don't know how he does what he does, but yeah, give him a break, maybe 5 minutes that he mixed those two. But Biden, everybody agrees. People overseas basically have noticed it. And in their own words, they believe that Biden is in cognitive decline of sorts. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician to diagnose him. But there is certainly a lot of things on camera, on video, and a lot of things he says, which at some point you have to actually attribute it to be a flat out lies. He lied out about one of his sons being killed in either Iraq or something like that. And he lied about, I mean, there is a long list of lies that Biden does. So is it cognitive decline? Is it age? Is it intentional? We don't know. But Nikki Haley definitely is popular with voters who would like to see a fresh face, what they call. And she has a lot of Republican donors right now. The biggest new thing is the South Carolina primary, where she has a lot of endorsements. I mean, Trump has received a lot of endorsements, but she has a lot of donors who are supporting her. But look at the money spent. Ron DeSantis, I think he took it all the way to the bank. 200, I'm thinking, million that his presidential race cost. Trump, I believe, about 36, 37 million thus far, and Nikki Haley about 11 million thus far. So it's not really about the money, because if it was, Ron DeSantis would already have been the front runner, but he is not. And remember how you and I, we spoke on the phone, it's like running against Trump is like running against Elvis Presley. You don't want to be running against Elvis Presley. He's got charisma, he's got style. Yes, he's rough on the edges. I have to spank him for commenting on Nikki Haley's dress the other day. I think that was below the belt. He didn't have to go there. Remember what he said? That, oh, she just was wearing this dress, and know, like, you're better than that, Trump. But on the other hand, I think the Biden campaign is ecstatic about Nikki still being in the race. Guess why? Because when Ron DeSantis pulled out of the race, what happened was he endorsed Donald Trump. So Trump was hoping to gain a lot of DeSantis supporters, which he did. But Nikki Haley, she was trying to gain some of the independent voters and Ron DeSantis supporters, but they're not running to her that fast. A lot of Ron DeSantis supporters went to Trump. Can she swing independent voters towards herself? I don't see how, if Trump has such a great support in South Carolina, all the major lawmakers, including my unfavorite Senator Lindsey Graham, who is a warmonger and wants the war in Ukraine to go forever. But he supports Donald Trump, and including, I almost think about 30 different lawmakers down there. So she being a South Carolina former governor, is she gonna, ride the wave and all the way to the top? I don't think that's gonna work. I think Trump's gonna take South Carolina, like he did the New Hampshire by the storm. I think he took New Hampshire by double digits. And in the recent polls, he is leading 61% to her 27%. So I'm thinking, but then again, I think the reason why Nikki is still in the race, why she's trying to stick it out and hope that maybe, just maybe, between now and the the primaries and everything else, that something drastic happens, and maybe for some magical reason, Trump will not be a contender anymore. Maybe that's what she's betting on, because if he wins South Carolina, that's a take-all state. So all 50 delegate votes will go to Trump. And I believe you need 1,215 or something like that, plus minus votes total. So she believes that there is more states to go. She can keep going. She can keep running, and maybe hoping that poor Trump with 91 criminal charges against him, at some point, maybe something will stick, and maybe that's what she's hoping for. She did mention before that Americans will never vote for a criminally convicted felon or something along those lines. So maybe that's her hope, that at some point Trump's last straw will break, and maybe he will not be in the race anymore, and here comes her. But the Republican nomination was pretty much leaked, and resolution was leaked as if Republicans already are settling on Trump being a front-runner and nominee, but then it was walked backwards because it was leaked. So we'll see what happens, but I think my thoughts, you cannot compete with Trump's popularity, and Trump is the Elvis Presley of modern eras in the United States. Anybody running against him, including Ron DeSantis, they just can't compete with his personality, charisma, his style, and his policies. And if you think about it, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, they were both nurtured by Trump. So they try to feed off of his policies and make it their own. But Trump still trumps.
So, and the Republican, on the Republican side, it seems like the voters, when they go to the polls or listen to people, listen to Republicans, they're all for Trump. But on the Democratic side, many Democrats are not happy with Biden, would like to see somebody else. So the party seems to be shoving Biden down their throat. I don't think that's a democracy. What do you think?
I think if anyone who is coherent American, who is a true American at heart, could look at what Biden is doing, and you don't have to go far. Look at what he's doing in Ukraine. Look at billions of dollars that flowed to Ukraine for how long now? Billions. I think I stopped counting at about 130 billion, but since that was several months ago, I'm sure it's maybe close to 200 billion already. Our own people, and I drive through the city nearby me, sleeping on the streets. We have homeless people. We have Americans who cannot afford health care. We have Americans who cannot afford groceries, who cannot afford their medications. And we have a president, Biden, who is shelling billions to the country with whom we don't even have a border with, Ukraine, but while our own border is open for invasion. Really? So every Democrat or Republican or independent who has some sense, these two issues, look at that, look at Ukraine, look at border, and you don't need to second guess how Biden is basically destroying our country at this minute and point in time. And if you want to help him to destroy it, maybe the Democratic Party wants to persuade you that you should be voting for him. But anybody who has a common sense or any kind of sense, he can see that if you care about Americans and American people, that Biden is not our caretaker. He doesn't take care of us. He basically takes care of everybody else overseas, his cronies, his donors. And if you look in the Ukraine situation, it's just clear as day where the corruption lies, where the money laundering schemes are. It's insane. It's insane. So just pushing Biden down the Democrats' throats, I think that time is over. I think a lot of people are waking up, especially due to this war in Ukraine. And some people who were in the beginning of the war in Ukraine stages were saying, oh, yes, this Putin is bad news. We need to fight Putin. Let's give more money to Ukraine. I think even those people now realizing that, yeah, the money went and gone. The war is still going. Nothing is changing. So what is Biden doing exactly? Wasting the taxpayers' money, putting us in debt, while not fixing our border crisis, fixing Ukraine's border crisis. This is insanity. If anybody has any common sense, they could see it. And that's the only issue you actually need to see through it. And of course, there is tons of more issues that could tell us that Biden is losing it on the home front. But that's what we need. We need a president who takes care of our country. And that's his primary duty, not to fix Ukraine.
So from 2017 to 2021, Trump was president. It seems like we still have a lot of problems in this country. But yet he decides to run again. Do you think it's time for him to step aside and allow somebody younger with more, and vigor than he's got? Do you think it's time for him to say thank you? I'm going back home. It's been great knowing you. What do you think?
I think Trump is on a mission. I think he feels he was wronged in 2020. And in one of his rallies and one of his speeches, he actually said, and I quote, I don't get angry, I get even.
Right.
So I think that's what's driving him. He wants to, what we call, quote unquote, I don't know, revenge or take back or, the power play. But he wants to show everybody that he was wronged in 2020 and he wants to win it all. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. The problem with our American politics, and I know that because I did run, and I encourage everyone out there, run for office. It will be eye-opening experience.
Oh
Do
boy.
it if you can. You life will never be the same. You will never see politics the same. But what I'm trying to say is that we would like to see new faces. We would like to see people who are capable, who have vigor. And it's not always the age. Some people in their 20s, they don't have any vigor or power. They just want to lay on the couch and click the clicker all day. And
Right.
some people in their 80s running around and full of vigor. So it's not really the age thing, but I agree with you, Cynthia, as to, yeah, we would like to have more people to choose from. But the problem is that the election system, entire election system is broken. It is broken. Why? Because we don't want politicians to be corrupted by corporate interests. But when we look at politicians, we always say, oh, who fundraised the most?
Right.
So have to go sell their soul to all the corporate donors and interests, right? And then we want them to be clear and transparent and non-biased and do what's right. It cannot work both ways.
Right.
So we either have to, as American people, accept that, yes, maybe we will have people running for president that are not billionaires at one point. But the problem is you have to have the fundraising ability to be considered by Republican or Democratic Party even as a viable candidate. And unless you have millions in your campaign account, the party is not going to support somebody who doesn't. So it's a vicious cycle, vicious circle. I believe our entire election system, or how we look at elections, has to be reformed, and it will be, because I think with the time and effort it takes to run the campaigns, at some point, American people will start understanding that we're spinning the wheels, we're not getting any new people because of what this system has become. You have to sell your soul to the donors and corporate interests in order to be even on the ballot, which you know, I'm talking about presidential race in this case. Look at Nikki Haley and her donors. Some of her donors, my understanding, are the very same people who are funding all the lawsuits who go against Trump in various states right now.
Mm.
And Trump even told his crowd at the rally that if anybody donates to what he calls the bird brain, don't quote me on that, Google it, guys, but I'm afraid he was hinting
Right.
at his opponent, and he said will be permanently barred from MAGA, you know, movement or MAGA
Right.
camp, something on those lines. So look at the donors of Nikki Haley, look at the donors and where the money flows, where the money goes. If we want new candidates, we have to disassociate our perception of the candidate who is the best equipped with millions and billions of corporate or donor funds, because we cannot expect that candidate then to do what we want them to do, because they already sold their integrity to other people.
Now, you talk about people getting in and running for office. I live in New York. I know how difficult it is to get on the ballot. And it seems as though the establishment likes it that way. They don't want anybody intruding on their little gig. They like it that, there's no outsiders coming in. And the people seem more or less to accept that. What do you think?
I think, Cynthia, like I said, the entire system is broken. The entire system is very much geared for failure and not serving the interest of the people. If you need to have millions of dollars to participate in presidential debates to even be capable to step on the stage, you know how they alienate the candidates from opportunity to participate in debates based on what they have in their accounts, how much money they have. That's insane. When I ran a Republican primary, the policy of Republican Party, I ran against incumbent of 35 years at the time. Imagine the guts. Imagine me. I never ran for public office, and I am stepping up and taking on the 35 years of incumbent in my district, right? But a Republican Party policy is they always support incumbent. So we have a
Right.
Republican incumbent in office who voted to impeach President Trump. And the party supports this type of incumbents. That's a policy that needs to go. Because if you have an incumbent who is a Republican, they have to abide by at least majority of Republican platform. Republican Party has a platform. It's a book. They need to read it and they have to study it. And you have to be within the party policy. Otherwise, why are you calling yourself Republican? In my case, the incumbent I ran against in the primary was constantly voting with Pelosi and Democrats and called himself a Republican.
Uh-huh.
And the party policy is we support incumbents. So what the party is basically saying, we don't care if the incumbent basically sell out to Pelosi's camp, we'll still support him. That's insanity. And here comes me in 2020, run on the platform of America First, a Trump supporter, all the great Republican values and policies in place. But the party supports incumbent who votes against Trump and votes to impeach Trump, a Republican president. This is insanity. Therefore, parties need to look at their policies and see where do they go wrong, because the people look at me and think, oh, Elena is running. She must be getting all kinds of support from Republican Party. Let's donate to Republican Party so they could give Elena some support. Guess what? Elena gets nothing from Republican Party. All the money you donate to Republican Party goes to the incumbent Elena is running against. Do you see where it's at, Cynthia? So the playing field is not plain. It's not a level field. Competition is not fair. The game is not fair. The game is rigged.
Right.
against anyone new coming in with fresh ideas, new faces. If you want younger, yes, younger, doesn't matter. If you're a new person coming in, the parties, the gatekeepers, at least in the Republican Party, they all support all the funding goes to incumbent. That's what I always say. If you like a candidate, if you like what they stand for, if you connect with their message, donate directly to them and their campaign. Don't donate to the party, because at least the Republican Party's policy is that all the funds and support goes to incumbent. You see
Right.
what I mean? And not to the new person. And if incumbent is somebody that needs to be challenged, in my case, I believed he had to be challenged because he did not really stand by the Republican platform. I saw his voting record. That's why I wanted to run. And he ended up voting to impeach President Trump. Are you kidding me? One of the 10 Republicans who voted with Pelosi to impeach President Trump was Fred Upton from, at that time, Michigan District 6, United States Congressman here in at that time, District 6, whom I ran against in primary in 2020. And then he later voted to impeach President Trump. And his voting record was by far nowhere near where Republican platform is. And that was one of the reasons I stepped up to challenge him. But the problem is the Republican Party still supports incumbents in their policy. That policy needs to go. The field and the game, whatever the conditions, the starting level has to be equal for everyone. Because what it does, it breeds the power of incumbent. And if incumbent left the building and started to support Nancy Pelosi and Democratic agenda and votes on that side all the time, you don't have to go far. Just look up Fred Upton's voting record at the time. He now has retired since that couple of years ago. But yeah, if you look at the voting record, and that was my shock, he was a Republican. I voted for him while back when myself. But then when I started to notice what's happening in our country, I looked close to his voting record. I was in shock. One of the 10 Republicans who voted with Nancy Pelosi, Fred Upton. One of the 11 Republicans who voted on some bill with Nancy Pelosi. He voted against Trump border control, against Trump wall, and against Trump trying to fix our border. Our Republican congressman, against whom I ran in primary in 2020, voting against that. I mean, seriously? So that's what the problem is. The parties are the problem. And then another problem is endorsements. And I know in Michigan, a lot of people are frustrated with some of the endorsements that Trump was giving because some of the endorsements that Trump campaign gave to some of the candidates who ran, at least in 2022, some people who are very good conservatives here, who are very strong conservatives, quite questioned, and they believe that maybe Republican Party gives Trump a list and says, here's the people, endorse them, and maybe Trump doesn't have time to vet them all himself. But that's another problem, the endorsements. Because some of those endorsements that were received from Trump campaign towards some Michigan candidates, a lot of conservatives were quite displeased as to who received those endorsements. And the ones who should have received endorsements because they're really strong conservatives and really strong Trump supporters never got any endorsements. So how does that work? Well, it's probably because the party submits a list to Trump. That's what my thought, and that's what I've heard other people say. I wasn't there, wasn't in the room, but if party selects certain people and hands that list to Trump for endorsements, and that's pretty much it, and he doesn't vet the candidates and he doesn't see who else is out there running who maybe is more deserving or stronger candidate or has a better platform or better support for America First policies, that's a downside as well. So there's lots of different issues that could be done differently, I mean, in our elections and how parties work with candidates. And of course, I'm kind of in the process of writing about it. I hope that maybe one day will be a book about it because I have so many thoughts, so much to share. I hope maybe somebody would be interested.
So in 2016, when Trump ran the first time, back then to today, Did the establishment consider him an outsider?
I believe so. And that's one of the things that I think I have. I mean, of course, I don't compare myself to Trump, but I do have in common. And it's one of the reasons that I also decided to run in 2020 to support Trump, because I realized he had no support from at least my congressman from my district in Congress, and he needed that support to put forth his policies, because obviously, in the end of the day, it's Congress who gives the money and votes on things and decides. It's the people's representatives, right? But with initially when Trump ran, he was not a career politician. Neither am I. He's a real estate developer, so am I. So we have some things in common, but the problem is that because we are not career politicians and we're self-made people and we're well-to-do, successful people, nobody can control us. You see what I mean? And I think that's a problem for a lot of party, and I don't, know which party. I think any structure, whether it's a political party or any structure, likes to have a certain element of control over their candidates, so they could sort of kind of have their, donations flowing because
Right.
of whatever that they have the commitments with, or whoever they have commitments with. And for years, maybe those commitments. And here comes the outsider. At the time, a Republican Party didn't want Trump. A lot, not all, but some people were very adamant against Trump's candidacy in 2016. And some still are. And I think those are the ones who support Nikki Haley heavily right now. Those are never Trumpers. That's why they want Nikki, because, they want somebody that they can see as a career politician, possibly, that they can have a better handle on. Who can get at a handle on Trump? I don't think too many can. And who can get a handle on somebody who is independent, who is self-made, who is a business person, who did not wait in a pipeline? There is a lingo in politics. It's called pipeline. So when you get into politics and see what's going on, and there's all these people who will come up to you, and Nikki Haley actually said the same thing people told to her. Oh, Nikki, why don't you, run for like a school board trustee or something like that? And that's why she felt like she wanted to run for president, because all those people were always telling her to start small, to start slow. And like there's be people who will tell you, oh, why don't you run for like a commissioner or like a county commission? Like they would want you to get into that pipeline so they can then see, okay, now you at this level, well, maybe you agree with what we want, maybe we'll promote you to next level, we'll encourage you to, so you have this pipeline where you're growing. And here comes me, never ran for public office, and want to take on the 35-year in office incumbent. Here comes Trump and says, I want to be a president. Where is that door? Where do I sign in? So yeah, the parties, consider people who were not going through that pipeline, through that gradual, ascent, like Nikki. Nikki is as political career politician as a gradual pipeline as can be. She started from state legislature. She was, I believe, an accountant. Then she went to be some business women owners association treasurer or something like that. Then elected to state legislature. Then she went to, governorship twice. And then U.S. Ambassadorship under Trump. And then, of course, now running for president. So you see people like that, those are the pipeline people. You know what I mean? And the people like Trump, who just comes out of business background, and I come out from business background. We didn't go through this gradual process of, being, I don't want to say submissive, but maybe, submissive to the extent of, this is my career, let's just gradually grow into becoming this, stellar opportunity. In her case, it's presidency. No, I believe that I am a business person. I have something to bring to the table. So does Trump. And I don't need a career in politics. I always told people, he says, oh, Elena, you're a politician. I said, no, I'm a stateswoman. I'm a businesswoman. I want to give back to the society, to America. But I don't need a quote unquote career in politics. I already have a career. And you see, Trump is the same way. He doesn't have to be a president. He's got stuff going for him. He has his businesses. He has his other priorities out there. He wants to give back to America. My understanding, he wants to make America great again, like he said. He wants our country to be respected again. So do I. So is it outsider? Very much so. But I think that everybody should have an opportunity as American citizen to participate in American political process. And we should not be treated as outsiders just because we want to contribute to what's constitutionally our right to do, to contribute to self-governing. American Congress was not made for those people to make careers out of it for 50, 40 years. Thank you, Ms. Pelosi, Mr. Biden, 47 years. What? Right. America was made that you could serve, Cynthia, for a few years, and I can come and serve and contribute with my experience, and another person can come. But people are so paranoid, they're so scared, like, oh, I need to have political experience. No, you don't. You're American citizen. You're intelligent. You have something to bring to the table. Bring your skills. You know what I mean? But the parties became to where it's almost a gatekeeper. Instead of encouraging people to contribute and run, they became the systems and structures that discourage people and stop people from contributing and running. And in my view, Republican Party needs a makeover, overhaul, whatever you call it, because there are a lot of good candidates. I know Dr. Shiva in Massachusetts, he ran at the same time I ran in 2020. He ran for US Senate. I ran for US Congress for the House of Representatives. And Peggy Hubbard in Illinois, she was a great candidate. We're all Republican candidates, all Trump supporters. Did any of us get a Trump endorsement? I don't even know if Trump knew we were running.
Wow.
Because the party supports incumbents. I don't know if Dr. Shiva had incumbent. I don't think he did. When it's open seat, it's a little different. But I ran against incumbent. So even though I am a Trump supporter, you see what I mean? The party still will support incumbent. That's insanity. So the parties need an overhaul of their policies if we want people who are more connected to the voters. People who are more connected to the issues instead of their own political gains or their political careers and how they're perceived by their donors.
So this is going to be a very, very interesting year. Never before in my lifetime have I ever seen anything like what's going on today. So would you be interested in coming back again, Elena, and talk about what's unfolding and share your thoughts about, the whole process?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we could talk. I enjoy my time with you, Cynthia. We always find something interesting to discover, uncover, and share with your viewers. And thank you and your viewers very much for allowing me this opportunity to come and be with you today.
Thank you. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. We've been listening to Elena Oelke. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And please because if you like this video, then it spreads on YouTube that much more. Thank you. And Elena, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.